Good afternoon. My name is Darrell Rader. I'm the President and CEO of Minaurum Gold. Before we begin, I just want to highlight our forward-looking statements. In a nutshell, please do your due diligence prior to investing. For those of you that don't know who Minaurum is, we are focused on making Tier 1 mineral discoveries in Mexico. We have what we call a discovery generator model, and that focuses to acquire, advance, and ultimately monetize district-scale projects in Mexico. We have a track record of having discovered over 16 million ounces of gold and 300 million ounces of silver in Mexico thus far, and Minaurum's the first time this whole team has come together to make a new discovery. We're at the point now where we believe we've made the next big discovery as a Tier 1 asset, which is the Alamos Silver project, which I'll be discussing here in a few seconds. Our leadership team has a number of individuals that have taken projects from the exploration stage through to the production stage. We know that our core competency is exploration geology. Some of the names you may recognize there are Dr. Peter McGaw, who's a founder of the company, our senior geologist and director. He's here at the conference. David Medilek, some of you may know from K92, mine engineer on our board. He's at the conference here too. And another key individual is Jerry Rayner there, who discovered the Octetti mine in Papua New Guinea and is the porphyry expert that we have on our team. One thing I will mention is for those of you that have known our company, one of our senior geologists and co-founders, David Jones, who is known as Mr. Guerrero Gold Belt, passed away, unfortunately, at the end of last year. But one thing was he was very active in the way we explored. We have a lot of his exploration plans still, and we're using a lot of his modeling as we progress our exploration portfolio in Mexico. Minaurum currently has a $75 million market cap. We have an OTCQX listing in the United States as well as a TSXV listing in Canada. We currently have $4 million in the treasury. We have no debt outstanding, and our shareholder base is primarily consisting of family offices, private equity groups, and a number of funds in Europe and a few in North America here. The more notable North American funds are Sprott Asset Management, Crescat Capital, and we're also members of the SILJ Silver Junior ETF that's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. We do have analyst coverage from Michael Gray at Agentis, who probably many of you have heard speak at the conference here already. This is our project portfolio. Our flagship is Alamos Silver, where we believe we're on to a next Tier 1 discovery. We also have what I call sort of the flagship 1B project, the Santa Marta project, located in southern Mexico, which is a virgin VMS district. Our key focus is on advancing Alamos and Santa Marta once we get the drill permits. But one of the approaches that we followed is we're very dedicated to determining as quickly as possible if a project's going to be a Tier 1 asset or not. So we drill in a very unconventional manner in that, what I mean by that is when most juniors go and they step out 25 meters at a time, hoping that they won't jump out of mineralization. Our average step out hole is between 200 and 250 meters. And the reason we step out that aggressively is we want to determine as quickly as possible if this discovery has legs and what kind of size potential that it ultimately has. If it doesn't look like it has a size potential that we're looking for, we either drop the project or we JV it. And it's through that process that we JV'd both the Adelita Copper project to Infinitum Copper and the Tavicha project to Fortuna Silver. With both of those deals, we have 30% carried interests through PEA level advancement on the projects. No matter where we work in Mexico, we're committed to making a positive impact. You can see this is just one of the examples of our work at our Alamos Silver project, along with our Mexican partners. We've contributed $1.1 million in funding social environmental initiatives since 2017. What we're focused on this is creating sustainable employment with the local community, and by sustainable that means training the individuals in the community how to work in the exploration field, how to work in operating mines, so that if the project advances as we think it will, they are already trained to get the jobs when the opportunity comes. We also want to ensure that we don't create any environmental damage. I started my career in a company that basically revolutionized the drilling sphere in man-portable drill rigs, which were low-impact environmental and social drills. We still use those kind of drills here, but we're very focused on not leaving an environmental footprint wherever we may work. You can see there that we've planted over 11,000 agave plants. There's lots of other things such as providing a lot of health and safety items for the local communities, as well as training them in first aid for the first responders on the projects. There's a much more in-depth presentation on what we've done socially in the communities there. Our focus currently is on the Alamos Silver project. This is a historical 200 million ounce producer. This is sort of the tiers, why this is our next discovery. I mentioned we're building a tier 1 or a top tier asset. What we mean by that is it needs to have a minimum 200 gram silver grade, and we'd like to see at least 350 gram silver equivalent as the silver equivalent grade. It needs to be district scalable. As far as size goes, we'd like to see this high grade system be at least 50 million ounces to start, but with a very clear path to ultimately growing beyond 100 million ounces. You can see there, this most notably, sorry there, I got the wrong button. That average grade of 214 grams silver or 350 silver equivalent, that's the average vein intersection over 103 holes drilled, totaling just over 42,000 meters. So we've proven this is a high-grade system. We've proven it's a silver district. We've increased the mineral footprint by over 2,800%. We've discovered 4 separate silver shoots over the last 4 years. And on top of that, on top of the 3 historical veins, we've also discovered 26 separate new veins, 19 of which we drilled, 13 of which returned high-grade results. The last thing I'll mention here is we border the Piedras Verdes mine, which is Mexico's 3rd largest open pit copper silver mine. So we have a ready labor force and infrastructure in place. This is the historical background of the project. One of the things that we did a little differently is we took this approach that we wanted to do massive step-out drilling. So we knew the historical areas had potential, but we wanted to discover new mineralized systems here. So for the last 5 years, we've pretty well focused on finding the new discoveries, finding the virgin sort of versions of these historic mines. We found multiple silver shoots new, but we've also discovered that a number of the silver shoots historically mined, most notably at Promontory and Minas Nuevas, ended in mineralization. So where we're now at a point in development is we're starting to go from this real big grassroots exploration program where we were just looking for new discoveries throughout the district, and we're starting to focus now on some of the older workings, the older mines, and looking for the potential at depth there. And at the moment, we're actually just rehabilitating the underground workings at the Promontorio mine to get ready for underground sampling and mapping and ultimately underground drilling. This is what we've accomplished over the last 5 years. As I mentioned, 19 veins drilled, 13 returned high-grade results. You can see everything from 8 meters of 1,700 grams, 4 meters of 600 grams. We made a lot of discoveries, but we've prioritized basically 4 of them to be ultimately advanced to the resource stage for our initial resource, which will hopefully be done sometime this time next year. Top drill targets. This was a virgin discovery we made. 8 meters of 1,700. One of the things to note is because we have drilled such wide step outs, as we move towards a resource, we're going to have to start doing a lot more infill drilling. But all of our discoveries have been along very wide step outs that give us a pretty good level of comfort as far as the ultimate scalability of these individual targets. Promontory is where we're working right now. You can see some of the drill results there. It's a bit more of a polymetallic system, but we're also returning good widths and pretty high silver grades. You can see, for instance, this hole here that was 3.8 meters of 400 silver, almost 3 grams gold, 1.3 copper. You're looking at almost 15% combined base metals. And those are the kind of grades that they historically mined in a lot of these vein systems that we're currently exploring. This just shows you 2 of the silver shoots. This is the haulage adit we're currently rehabilitating so that we can access the shafts and ultimately get underground drills in there to cheapen the cost of drilling these shoots off. These are 2 shoots here. They were both historically mined in the top portions. We have since drilled over 150 meters below the oldest workings, and we continue to be in high-grade mineralization. So that's it for Alamos. Santa Marta is sort of our 1B flagship project. This is a project that we've worked on for a lot of years. This is a project that has some name recognition to it. This is a project that David Lowell got involved with back in 2013. You can see some of the comments he made there, both publicly and in his autobiography, which is pictured there. What Santa Marta represents to us is we believe we're on to the next major copper VMS district in southern Mexico. This is a project that David Lowell had optioned from us through Lowell Copper, which was a predecessor of Equinox Gold. David Lowell also invested directly in the company and brought a number of his network into the stock at the end of 2013. He unfortunately, let's say, had a few issues with the community. We have since cleaned up those issues with the community, and we're finally drill permitting this project after a number of years here. So we're looking forward to getting some news on that. What really excites us about Santa Marta is one of these sort of, for lack of a better word, lottery ticket type projects that is what do you live for as a junior? It's a transformational asset. You don't know what you have till you drill it, but everything on surface indicates that it's an outcropping VMS lens that's heavily oxidized on surface. It basically constitutes a ridge sticking out of a valley. The entire ridge appears to be a VMS lens. This is the end of the ridge. It was mined between the 1940s and 50s. They took just under 100,000 tons out from what we can see in historic records. The average grade was 3.5% copper and 2.5 grams per ton gold. Where we see the potential is this looks like a supergene enrichment zone. It's highly oxidized. The first target here is just taking this zone, which is the end of the ridge, and extending it over the entire 700-meter length of the ridge. We have already done soil surveys over the entire 700 meters. The average copper grade in soils is 0.2% copper, which is very high for soils. And the plan here is as soon as we get permits, we're going to mobilize rigs and go in and every 100 meters drill and probably go down anywhere from 500 to 600 meters and get an idea of what this oxide part of the VMS looks like. And then we've also done geophysics that indicate there's a shadow at depth, which guys like David Lowell and Jim Franklin believed were shadows of a potential sulfide zone at depth. So this thing has some size potential. As far as the sort of the rule of thumb that Lowell and Franklin taught me over the years when we worked together on the project was typically in Mexico, if this is an intact VMS, i.e. it hasn't shifted around, fallen over, anything of that nature, the depth potential or the depth extent is usually a multiple of the surface exposure. And according to Lowell and Franklin and in their writings, they've typically stated that in Mexico, VMSs, the depth extent is usually anywhere from 4 to 6 of what the surface exposure is. And that's why you had guys like David Lowell investing personally, because they saw the potential of this being potentially a multi-kilometer deep system with a very large surface expression. So that's where we're permitting right now. We continue to work at Alamos. So the primary catalysts moving forward are continued mine rehabilitation at Alamos, ultimately working up towards a resource in the second half of next year. And then, of course, we're looking forward to advancing Santa Marta through drill permitting. And then we also have a number of our one of our junior partners, Infinitum, has been releasing some pretty good grades out of Adelita, and Fortuna is looking to drill on their project in the early part of 2023.